Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. Earlier today, I recorded a video on 3 hidden costs of driving. I'm here in Taiwan. We don't have nearly as big a car culture. In fact, you probably will see more buses than cars. I guess we do have motorcycles. That has its own challenges too. I just noticed there's one other hidden cost of driving I didn't think about earlier. But it's a big one, actually. You may have noticed that in my 7 weeks here in Taiwan, I've lost a little bit of weight. Actually, a little bit more than I wanted to. But I want to overshoot the weight loss because I know when I get home to the US, various challenges will make it hard for me to maintain my weight. So I want to overshoot it by a few pounds to give myself a little bit of room. I don't know if that's exactly a good idea, but at least that's what will work for me. But one of the reasons that it is so much easier here in Taiwan is that I don't have to drive. One of the biggest reasons I have to prematurely break an intermittent fast is that I can't drive in a fasted state, right? I mean, my work comes to me very naturally. A lot of times, I can teach. I'm a college professor. I can teach my classes with my eyes closed. I can teach it half asleep. A lot of times, I actually do teach it half asleep. I can't tell you how many times, especially last semester, when I was so lost with everything, that it would be a Tuesday, and in my mind it would be blurry. Did I actually go to work on Monday? I would often open my email thinking that I'm going to get a dozen angry emails. I didn't show up on Monday, but I really did, and I can't even remember it. You got to remember, my heart was being ripped inside and out last semester. I had a lot of turbulences with multiple relationships. Did they all go well? Not really, but I learned a lot from them. And but unfortunately, my stomach was turned inside out. My mind was turned inside out by that. And I would have let it continue, except that it's too dangerous to have to drive in that condition. It's not particularly dangerous for me to work in that condition. I mean, I don't do anything dangerous at my job, and a lot of these things they come like second nature to me. Yesterday, I spent some time. You guys remember a girl I met here in Taiwan last year, and it dawned on me that without having to drive home at the end of the night, it really opens up a lot of possibilities. Now, I don't drink, but it opens up a lot of possibilities to how tired I could be at the end of the night without having to risk my life, right? At best, there have been times here in Taiwan I fell asleep on the train, I missed my stop, no big deal, right? In fact, a lot of times when I miss my stop, I discover something else interesting on the train lines that I didn't even realize was there, right? You can't do that when you're driving, right? Um, it also opens up the possibility to sometimes the only reason I don't pull an all nighter to do what I want to do, like my Lego projects or a computer game that I want to write, sometimes the thing that stops me from pulling the all nighter is the fact that I have to drive tomorrow, not the fact that I have to work tomorrow. And I know this because there have been times when I lived out in my car on the college campus. And I'm much more flexible about pulling all nighters when my living situation looks like that because I can teach the class half asleep. In fact, I often do teach the class half asleep. I probably do a whole lot better that way because my mind isn't racing a million miles per hour on irrelevant stuff, right? Um, and the fact that we have to drive closes so many doors, right? You can't do your intermittent fasting because it would affect the safety of your driving. If you drink or use any substances, it puts a limit to where that could happen, obviously. I don't use any illegal substances, but I do use a bunch of legal ones, right? Like this, right? Having to drive puts a limit to that as well, believe me. It puts a limit to how sleep deprived you can push yourself. Not that it's not, don't get me wrong, sleep is important. But sometimes a big idea comes, right? And you can kind of push it aside a little bit if you don't have to drive, right? Assuming you don't work at dangerous jobs. I mean, obviously, if you work with dangerous chemicals or things that could explode, don't do this. But it puts a limit to trying to think where else it puts a limit to how wild you can let your emotions run with your dating life or whatever you're doing, right? Uh, you get the idea, right? Now, another thing is that I talked about how easy it is for me to do intermittent fasting here in Taiwan. Over in the U.S., we have a very closed off culture, right? It's very difficult to hang around. Here in Taiwan, I like to get exercise, and sometimes I walk a little bit more than I can handle, and I sometimes end up sitting down on a bench to rest a little bit. Over in the U.S., we don't have a lot of benches because we're so against the homeless people camping out there. Here's my view on this. If the homeless person is doing something else that is that might endanger somebody, like if they're littering, if there's poor hygiene involved, if there's modesty issues, do something about that, but not about the fact that they're homeless, not about the fact that they need to rest their legs a little bit. I mean, the fact that you don't have somewhere to rest your legs a little bit in the U.S. kind of pigeonholes how you could get exercise. I bet that's a big contributor to why we're overweight in the U.S., right? Here in Taiwan, it's less of an issue. There's plenty of places to rest if you need to, and that encourages more people to go out and exercise. Do we have a homeless problem here in Taiwan? Yeah, of course we do, but we don't have all of the modesty and littering issues because we actually deal with that. It doesn't matter who litters, right? If Donald Trump were to litter, I think we should treat it the same way as a homeless person litter. It doesn't really matter who does it, right? If there's modesty, if Donald Trump exposes himself because he needs to urinate on this, does it matter that he's Donald Trump, right? Right. Deal with that problem, right? This is the Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum.